Okay, everybody, I am so excited because The Boys is finally back, season 3. This is my spoiler review for episodes 1 through 3, so don't watch any of this video until you've watched all 3 episodes. Having said that, if you're someone who's watched all 3, I'm sure Britney Spears' mega classic here, the best pop song ever made, Hit Me Baby One More Time, is running through your head as it is mine. I love the use of it in episode 3, which we're going to get into, but let's start right from the top with episode 1. Payback. Now, I love that they did a 1 year time jump. I think that that was a great way to freshen the story a bit. And you see how season 1 and 2 kind of rolled into each other, and there's an intensity. But if you keep the same timeline going where there's no time jump in a show, sometimes it can feel like it gets redundant, repetitive, or just loses its freshness. So the time jump was much needed, and I think it really was effective, and it wasn't too much of a time jump. The 1 year mark was a really nice choice, I think, by the team here, and you already start with like a huge surprise appearance of Charlize Theron playing Stormfront in Dawn of the Seven, which I thought was great. And the humor was just really, really good in all 3 episodes, but especially in episode 1. And I thought one of the best sequences that is so The Boys is a sequence with Termite. And it's this just screwed up version of Ant-Man. And that's one of those scenes that won't leave you. It was what you expect from The Boys. It was intense, hysterical at the same time, and super creative. And the best thing about The Boys is you see scenes you don't see anything like. So it gets props for uniqueness, and it was effective. I thought it was a really good sequence to kind of get you back into like, okay, this is what I remember about The Boys. This is why I love this show. What they did so effectively in these 3 episodes to me, and it starts in episode 1, is they get you settled in, especially in episode 1, with our characters where they are now. And it's a little bit of a refresher, but also a good table setter. But what this season to me is really delving into is the selfishness of a lot of the characters in the show, but also how similar they are to each other and how they're becoming each other. And you see with Hughie, for example, Hughie is this FBSA agent, and he's doing things the right way where we left off, but we see he's been doing that successfully. He's kind of gotten what he's wanted to handle soups the way he always did, the clean way. Now, it turns out, as this season's already going with these 3 episodes, that Hughie is becoming more and more like Butcher, and that he's seeing his way in his eyes is not working, and he's crushed by the realization of who Vicky really is in this soup in Nadia, who's blowing people's heads apart. Now, why this worked for me is that it kind of avoided a trap where maybe that wouldn't be as interesting of Hughie being an FBSA agent the whole time. We like seeing the boys together, but it does it in a good way that they didn't just make it that Nadia's there, that there's this realization who she really is, but that he was friends with Nadia, and that it hurts him in other ways too, this betrayal he feels. So it makes it earn that Hughie would actually be this angry about it and kind of go towards the Butcher mindset on things. But what they smartly did in episode 1 was they made things all peachy with Hughie, and that he's, again, got what he wants, and now he's also with Starlight. They're happy together. But that already gets shaken up a bit when Supersonic is brought into the fold. And what they're clearly setting up with these first 3 episodes with Starlight and Hughie is this divide going on where Hughie's selfishness is coming in because of the way he is very possessive of Starlight. He's very insecure. And he also is telling her at a point to just smile and push through everything we're going to see Starlight go through in these first 3 episodes. And it's going to cause a little break here in Starlight and Hughie's relationship. And that at this happening, Supersonic is the one who's kind of showing he has Starlight's back here and is there for her. So this is where in relationships we kind of get a divide, and it's showing you that if Hughie's going to go down this Butcher path, that's going to push Starlight away for sure. Now, I like what they're doing with Mother's Milk, that he's trying to get away from all of it. He can't. And that just having Butcher come in and bring him in is something that worked really well for me by just him mentioning Soldier Boy, and that they made Soldier Boy connected to Mother's Milk, and that he killed Mother Milk's family, so there's more personal attachment to Mother's Milk here that will bring him in back to the fold, and that, like his ex says, he can't not be true to himself. And I think that worked in getting us convinced why Mother's Milk would go into this again with Butcher, and that it shows too the selfishness we always know about Butcher, but how he kind of manipulates people to do what he wants. That's his MO here, and that we're seeing a good side of Butcher with Ryan at first, but then that starts to break as it goes on, and we get this horrible moment with Butcher where he basically blames Ryan to his face for what happened to Becca, which is just terrible. This is where Butcher can get really bad. And Also, when Butcher takes care of Gunfire, you see that with his connection to Homelander, where we see in episode 1 Homelander has this conversation with him, almost like that classic, a little cliched, but they didn't write it cliche, thank God, but that like, we're not so different, you and I kind of speech. But it's true, and that Homelander and him at this season are these caged animals in the beginning, and they are on the outs of their own paths and the groups they're used to being in, and they don't like it, and that their similarities show really here with Butcher when he takes this formula of Compound V, that's the newer version, that's 24 hours, supposed to only last 24 hours, but like Stan says, they're not sure about all the side effects, which are clearly seeing Butcher is experiencing. Butcher, he literally zaps gunpowder in half from his eyes, just like Homelander would. So that means a lot that the power's coming out of his eyes too. That's not just a random choice by the showrunners and creators here. Like, this is because it's supposed to connect more and more in our head how much he's becoming like Homelander in the same way that Hughie's becoming like Butcher. It's just kind of chain of events here. And I know I'm going on a rant. Now I'm deciding while I'm doing this review not to actually go episode by episode. I'm actually trying to connect because they did such a good job of connecting all three. But we see in episode 1, Maeve plants the seed about how they can kill Homelander, and then it connects to Soldier Boy that he was killed by this PCL Red, which we'll learn later on the Russians had. So it's setting up this plot of how they're going to kill Homelander, which I like. And it's a good plot because with what's happening with Homelander, I have a feeling this is going to be it this season for Homelander because he's going to hit his peak. He's going full crazy here, full rogue in a sense as well. And that it's good that the other side of it, they have it, that they're trying to kill him, and they're really amping that up, and there's an actual possibility with some kind of device or weapon or whatever. So episode 1, I'm going to give an 8.7. I think it was a really good table setter. It was grounded. It didn't rely on a big bang that other seasons have had in the beginning. It kind of made it just really interesting with characters and setting up the plot to be interesting this season. So I did really like the premiere. Now, my favorite episode of the 3 was episode 2, The Only Man in the Sky. So first off, one of the funniest things was when Kimiko and Frenchie are going after Crimson Countess. That Crimson Countess, who I love the actress, Laurie Holden. I'm so happy to see her back doing things. She was great in The Walking Dead. I love she sings Chimps Don't Cry. That was hysterical. But I also like during this, they spent time of developing Kimiko's character and that she's still grieving her brother and seeing the two siblings there that reminded of her have to go through this trauma that she feels responsible for, and that Kimiko wants that normal life of just being able to ride a roller coaster and get away from this soup life she's always been stuck in. Also, as a huge fan of Legos, I love the Lego love put in this episode, where you see Janine has a Vought Tower Lego. It looks just like the Lego sets they make now, which I thought was great. And how even when Ryan sends this video to Butcher, that's a nice video for him to see. It reminds him of Becca, obviously, as a Lego. I thought that was really cool. And adding to the humor, just not even just the Chimps Don't Cry song, but also the stuff with Hughie at the orphanage with the soups. This kid that keeps teleporting, I thought, was so good. And props to Jack Quaid just being able to sell his uncomfortableness like he always is. He's so good at playing just awkward. And all the stuff with Gunpowder here, they did a nice job. And, I mean, it couldn't be more timely here with the assault rifle convention that he's at. That probably had a lot of people thinking about recent things. And they did a good job, though, at showing Gunpowder was, like Maeve warned, overpowering to Butcher unless he was to take this Compound V formula. Because they show in the first encounter, he actually gets hit by Gunpowder, and it sets up really well in the end later, where we'll first see Butcher use his Compound V and become this soup. And he'll learn more that Mallory knows more about things than she's leading on. Now, you see Stormfront, who literally looks like Anakin when he becomes Darth Vader in Revenge of the Sith when he's burnt up by Obi-Wan, that she'll commit suicide on Homelander's birthday. And his ratings are all down, Homelander, as we see. And it's bad that he's attached to a Nazi. That brought his ratings down. And everything is just going berserk for Homelander here. And this is where he seriously snaps when she sees Stormfront commit suicide. And then he lets this woman commit suicide that is on this building. And what really makes him snap is when the heckler on TV heckles Homelander mentioning Stormfront. And this is where clearly they're making parallels of Homelander to Donald Trump here, where he's now on this renegade path. He's anti-Vought. He's anti-government. He's his own man, and he says this all on the air, and his ratings go up. And that's a big moment where Mother Milk's ex, who is this huge Homelander fan we know from the first episode in that costume. He's leaning up excited about this. This is the demo that will appeal to this kind of speech that Homelander is making. So I thought this episode really, episode 2, everything was just really, every scene count here, and that the humor was spot on, but also it ended with 2 huge moments with Butcher becoming a soup temporarily at least, and that Homelander is now becoming this renegade, and both animals we've seen caged in episode 1 are now coming back out of their cages and more scary than ever. Now, episode 3, Barbary Coast. I like that they showed this flashback 17 years ago of Starlight again with her pageant mom, and she's singing Hit Me Baby One More Time, but she has the fist clenched in the back again, doing something she really doesn't want to do and pushing through it. And it's kind of showing you too that Hughie has this moment, like the big moment on the phone where he's telling her to just kind of suck everything up for them, you know, and put a smile on through all this, even though Deep's joining the team, Homelander's tormenting her, and her being co-captain, that it would break her heart that Hughie was treating her like her mother would, and that he's becoming a pageant mom in a sense in his own right to her. So everything's just falling around Starlight here, and she did make this stupid decision in the beginning to even be co-captain, having that thing she's always had of temptation of power, and that can kind of be her Achilles heel of a little bit of greed on Starlight's character arc. But maybe the funniest moment in The Boys to me yet is when we see the producers of the reality show, the social media team saying, Supersonic, for girls 11-14, he's a real panty dropper, and Starlight going, that's horrifying. I laughed so hard during that. That was great. And also, shout out to the casting department. They just absolutely crushed it casting young Mallory and young Stan Edgar. It is fascinating how well they casted a younger version of them, so props to that. And it was cool to see the origins of what happened to Black Noir, and that he did want to be unmasked, and that we see how his face got the way it is. I thought that was a nice touch to throw in and make the flashback a little more interesting. And my favorite scene of episode 3 was actually with Homelander talking to Starlight, and what makes Homelander scarier than ever is when he's making the speech to her about, yeah, you know, go ahead, release the blackmail video, because if I lose all of it, then I have nothing to lose. And do you really want that? Because then he'll just, like he said, he can get rid of New York, everything, in an instant, destroy her family. And he says, though, he wants people to love him, which we know about Homelander at the end of the day. He doesn't want that path, but he'll do it if he has to. So it kind of makes Hughie and Starlight and everyone having their blackmail on him not the best idea either, because if they had to use it, it would also end the world. So it was a fascinating moment, and just, again, great acting all around by Antony Starr and Erin Moriarty here. But you see Homelander not only torments Starlight by bringing Deep in, because that's who Homelander is, because he's got his ratings back up, and he'll just do his power plays like he always does, and then he torments even Deep here by making him eat his fishy friends and his octopus. Now, everything going on the side stories with Frenchie was a little slow to me. I'm not that interested in it, but it's setting up again how we'll get Frenchie involved with little Nina, and then them going to Russia. And then everything with A-Train feels a little extension, that they got to keep stuff going on with A-Train here. And I don't think that there's certain characters in the show that I feel like maybe that we can kind of get away from eventually, which probably would be the Deep and A-Train. And I don't know, they've kind of really shelved Maeve this season so far, but I'm sure she'll come more into the fold. But there's a lot of characters in the show, and that could be tough sometimes, and sometimes they feel compelled to give it more weight. So I do like what they're doing with the A-Train storyline, but again, these are still very side characters, and I don't know how much it will tie into the main arc of the show at the end of the day. So it's good, but maybe can take away screen time from the characters like Butcher and Homelander that we really, really want to spend time with. So where that big transition happens of where it's going to catapult, where the season's going to go, is Butcher becoming Butcher at the end of the day, saying something horrible to Ryan when we thought he was changing for the better, and this big reveal that Homelander makes it public that him and Starlight are a couple, because he was hinted at that ratings are through the roof when they're together, so he's going to take that and run with it. And now she has to throw the fist behind her. It was a nice callback to the flashback at the start of the episode. So it was a nice, I love when episodes start from the top and wrap beautifully to the end and connect it all together. And it becomes Homelight, which is just crazy. So this episode was definitely an 8.9 for me, but I'm still giving episode 2 the best score at 9.4, because that one really just hit hard with Butcher becoming a soup temporarily, and you see Homelander having his speech of rebellion. So I'm really digging this season so far as a whole. I definitely think so far it's already better than season two. Season two I liked, but season three is a little more grounded in a sense and really doing interesting things with its characters. And I'm very intrigued by this season, where season two had some fun stuff in it. It was exciting, but I wasn't as like on the edge of my seat and wondering what's going to happen next. Where this season's doing a really, really good job of that so far. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on every episode so far. What your predictions are, your theories that could happen now. Bring them in. And again, I really appreciate any tips you can give on that thanks button. That helps me in so many ways, or becoming a member helps me too. You can donate monthly. It'll help me do this full time one day, make more videos for you guys. I really appreciate it. I also do celebrity interviews as well. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.